Hey, what's up, nerdies? Welcome to Something to Marvel About, a podcast where we discuss and dissect Marvel releases. My name's English Dave, and joining me in this time of morning is my co host, Andrew. What's up, Andrew?
Good day, everyone. Or is it?
We are here to talk X-Men 97, Episode 5, Remember It. Synopsis is as follows. As Genosha prepares to join the UN, select members of the team head to the island nation to be honorees. Back at the mansion, a behind-the-scenes press event risks airing the X-Men's dirty laundry. Andrew, your 30 seconds spoiler-free review. Go.
It might be my favorite episode of the season. Just no bias. I think I got it all. I got spectacle. I got drama. I got and still have tears. It hit home in every way possible, and I literally just can't wait to see what else comes. And I also I don't want to speak to anyone for like a week. I need time to heal.
I got into the show, X-Men 97. I was excited for a show that filled me. Like the first episode, I said I was in a nostalgia bathtub full of nostalgia bubbles,
Yeah.
feeling all that great nostalgia, warm, comforting blanket. You know, I was not ready for episode 5 to hit me with all those emotions.
No.
They didn't prepare me. This is not the show I was looking for. You know how you have certain shows and certain episodes of shows that become like hallmarks of television culture.
Yep.
Right. This is one of those episodes that years from now, everyone's going to say, "Where were you when you watched episode 5?"
Or like, where were you? Like, even regarding all of the X-Men, like, where were you when this happened, right? During this pivotal event in the entire multiverse.
Oh,
Like, come on.
we are sad. If you don't know why this episode is significant, then it's for some reason you're not watching this show, or you haven't been spoiled because I've been seeing it everywhere on my feeds. Just stop listening, go watch this episode, and then come back and listen to our thoughts. Just be aware that you will go through all the emotions, all of them. Anyway, let's get to it. This episode is split into two. There's two plot lines. You have the plot line that's happening at the X-Men mansion. They're being interviewed by reporter Trish Tilby, who, fun fact, in the comics, she has a relationship with Beast. That's why we have that moment where they had kind of flirt together. And she's trying to, the whole thing of, we want to showcase that mutants are just like everybody else. This is a good thing for them, good publicity. And then the second storyline, we see Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit go off to Genosha, and Gambit's being the third wheel because he wasn't supposed to go. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to go just because I want to feel like it." So we're going to start off with the mansion storyline. Even though it cuts back and forth, we will start off going with the mansion storyline. Trish is interviewing everyone, and she interviews. Things get crazy when she's interviewing Scott, and it's interesting because we get a lot of things. First of all, before things go crazy, she's talking to Scott, and at the same time, Logan is talking to Jean, because she's trying to arrange her memories. I love that visual of her in the middle of the pond and the water's all being held back and things like that. And they're both talking about the past, when the time when she had her Phoenix powers, and she's talking about trying to make Scott feel better by seeing his eyes, and he's talking about how he's trying to make her feel better by being comfortable around her. What did you think of the dynamic between Scott and Jean in this episode?
Scott and Jean are our favorite dysfunctional couple. I honestly feel, and this is like almost, it's so fun to watch their chaos. Is my summary for what I'm trying to say, right? Because I think one of the reasons, again, I enjoy this show because it's reminding me, at least, why I fell in love with the X-Men, why I love the comics, why I love the entire lore, and why, like, again, they're still dealing with real relationship problems. I might have all this power, like, yeah, he's like, I left galaxies for you, right? And he's like, but do you love me? It's still very much like it's still the heart, right? No matter how powerful you get, the heart still wants what it wants. That's kind of the thing I'm thinking. So it's very interesting to see the dynamic, especially being that the other woman involved is Jean, but not Jean, right? Like she referenced her like almost like she was cut out of her. Like, I mean, I think Madeline is a little more than that. She's like a person, but this love triangle, and then you add Wolverine, which makes like a square, and it's such I feel like it's a very important part of the X-Men storyline and franchise. The fact that there's trouble outside and there's also trouble at home, right? Like, it's almost like there's never peace. especially looking through the eyes of Scott and Jean. But it's interesting. Like I said, they're my favorite chaotic couple to watch dissect these emotions, and I feel like they're they both seem justified to me, right, in different ways. Because I can't imagine having to deal with that myself. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting because you talk about how, yeah, that they have to deal with their powers and deal with the human drama. And this is one of those examples that shows that their powers intersect with the human drama. Because of their powers, Cyclops is able to quote unquote cheat telepathically.
Right? Yeah.
Like that's not something you can
Yeah.
do. That's happened because you have powers. you know and I thought that moment was done so well because as the audience, when Cyclops is talking to Jean and she's like, oh, describe your son to me,
Mhm.
you're thinking that's the returned Jean because she's asking these questions.
Yeah.
And then when she's like, get out of his head,
And
I was like, oh
you're like, what is happening here?
snap,
Oh my gosh.
Cyclops. He got caught slipping. Oh snap! And I love the moment where we cut back to
And
Genosha
Emma's like,
with yeah. Emma's like, I know what you're doing.
even and I have to go find the comic panel, which I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah, I was going to say that. And for those who don't know, in the comics, Cyclops has a psychic relationship with Emma Frost. And on
This
top of
man.
that, Emma Frost is a psychic, so she'll be able to detect when someone else is having psychic conversations. So she's like, Though I find it interesting, we spoke about a couple weeks ago. We spoke about how I dislike the love triangle between
Yeah.
Jean, Scott, and
Oh,
Logan.
great.
But this week, before she catches Scott psychic cheating, she kisses Logan. And I actually appreciate Logan's reaction where he's
Same.
just like, no. As much as he wants to like say yes, how did you feel about the kiss?
I respected him a little bit more in that moment, especially because, again, that's why I like Wolverine. Though I also bash him sometimes because he wears his heart on his sleeve, but he also knows reality. Right? He's not gonna get lost in this like 30-second love before you run back to Scott. He's like, please, like, literally, woman, please, like, basically, what he said is, this is how I want this to happen. Once you and Scott have said your byes amicably, come back and find me. Don't come kiss me when you're about to run back to the Boy Scouts, basically. But like you said, yeah, that was the only reason
Right.
I thought she was crazy and she needs to move on. But anyways, don't want to spend too much on their love life, but it's great to see them all falling apart together.
Right.
Good.
And then that's where we get, Scott, his moment. He talked about how he's been through a lot. And I think sometimes it's easy to kind of judge without really stopping to understand context. He just lost his mentor.
Yeah.
Professor X is the one person that outside of Jean, that anchored Scott. He thought he finally married his Jean. He thought he had a son. Aurora, his teammate, lost her powers. All these things that happen. Magneto, he's one of his greatest nemesis, is in charge of the school now. You know, all of this is happening, and then some stupid reporter is going to ask him some dumb questions where he has to prove himself, a human. And I love that scene, where he goes, I'm trying to find the line. He says, because you're normal. You're ungrateful. We fight, risk our lives for you. Evil mutants, robots, crazy aliens. I give him up. I gave him up because you can't say thank you. Because I have to stomach your questions and prove that I'm a person. I lie because the truth is we're nothing like you. Thank God, because it's the only reason you people are still alive. Drops mic, walks out. I was like, oh,
Oh,
oh. I
fair
mean,
enough.
that line,
Fair enough.
we're not like you. Thank God, because it's the reason you're still alive. That's too real.
I mean,
What do you think of that moment, Scott?
burn for the entire human race. But hey, sometimes it has to be said, man. And, yeah, again, I agree with you. Like you said, I love the fact that when you think about it, he doesn't have Jean really. He doesn't have Professor X. So like, what are his tethers? He doesn't even have the team to lead, right? Because normally, I guess he'll let off some steam on the mission. So he's just there, like he can't even psychically cheat. He literally can't do anything. Uh, poor guy.
What people don't realize about Scott, I think people kind of pigeonhole Scott as this kind of like Boy Scout would do whatever it takes. He's the good guy, and I think that's oversimplification because Scott is actually more. He's not necessarily a Boy Scout that does the right thing. He was more about impressing Professor Xavier,
Yeah,
about setting to his standards. So
yeah,
that now that Xavier is not around anymore, Scott can unleash his real self, and
Yeah,
this is similar things that happen in the comics where you see a side of Scott that you don't expect.
yeah,
You don't expect Scott to be the one that lashes out on television,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Anyway,
Yeah.
you think he's the one that keeps composure. So I
Yep.
love the fact that we're seeing him. His again, one of the great things about this series since the original one was that the drama was done. The personal character drama was nailed so perfectly. Speaking of drama, we go to Genosha. We see a beautiful Genosha. It's almost like a resort. What did you think of the visual of Genosha, the music, the people, the culture? We get to see this fully formed Genosha. What did you think when you saw that?
It gave half Wakanda, half like Lord of the Rings, like just that like spectacle
Mm,
of like
mm.
yeah, wow, beautiful, and just like true that you can't believe what they set us up, man. They really set us up because it looked fantastic. It was even the statue of Magneto and Professor X, which
Mhm.
the choices there, everything just feels very like grand, like I said, and I believed it. I was like, yeah, this is what this is it. Maybe this is where they'll finally be able to live and explore their freedom. Uh,
It reminded me of, for those who watch Avatar, The Last Airbender, and Korra, it reminded me of Republic City, right? This place
I see
that
that.
Aang and Zuko created for everybody to be, and everybody is equal, And even though
Yeah.
the apples cost $10, which I thought was like, damn,
I
expensive ass apples. Um, we meet Nightcrawler again.
Yep.
We haven't seen Nightcrawler this season, though he was in the intro credits. That was a difference in the credits this
Okay.
time. He was involved in the intro credits. He doesn't do much this episode, but it's always fun to see Nightcrawler even advising Gambit on
Uh-huh.
on issues and matters of love. And I love
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff he said. There's one line he says where Gambit says, "Scoundrels like me, we don't get no white picket fence. We too busy for love, too busy sinning." And Nightcrawler says, "There is no love without sin. Love is best measured in what we forgive." I was like, damn, bars.
I wrote that down.
That I love that moment. However, let's get to the nitty gritty of it. The Genosian Council, the reason why they invited Magneto is that they want Magneto to be in charge. And I won't go into it. For those who've been paying attention, the Genosian Council is full of very, very familiar mutants that we've seen in the comics and in
Uh-huh.
past series. And I love the show I love that the show is able to sprinkle us with a whole bunch of very well known mutants, but they're just there's
Yep.
background characters. What
Yep.
did you think of the whole situation? We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. Magneto gets asked to lead. He says no at first. He gets convinced. He says only if I can have an X-Men as part of my team. And he just happens to pick Rogue because this is political reasons. It's not personal, it's political reasons. And so Rogue has to tell Gambit the truth. And then now they go in front of everybody at the party to showcase their union together. What did you think of that series of events from Rogue finding out about Magneto, Rogue telling Gambit, Gambit accepting this, and then having to see this, and your heart breaking through all of that? How did you feel?
Very well done story wise. So first thought, again, I haven't said this, but we're gonna call Magneto Mom because he's the master of magnetism. All right, so he's asking for this. So, anyways, it feels. Oh, I was like, did Mom set this up? Was this planned? Because it just fell so perfectly. Even when he said it, and I was like, oh, with Rogue, and I was like, oh, that would look good to the outside world. And I was like, wait, is that the long game? Is that what he's playing here? But that aside, some Gambit appreciation from me, I think, and I kind of mean from like again looking at it from a real human emotion standpoint, right? Like we all know he loves this lady to bits for whatever reason. We know he can't touch her, and I also understand her standpoint, right? Like she can literally touch Magneto. That already makes him like the best human candidate for her, right? On the love aspect. But just dealing with the gravity of it all, right? And I like seeing it from Rogue's standpoint as well, because we all know Rogue, despite her powers, she's really like a lady who just kind of wants to be left alone, right? She really likes a simple life, despite the way the world just hurls her into the, I guess, whirlpool of X-Men. So I think just that whole like Magneto wants to rule. We know Rogue probably doesn't want to, but she can see that, you know what, that I mean, it's not the worst job in the world, I guess. Like what, being the queen of all mutants next to this guy. I mean, so like there are elements for everyone, and even the scene with I love Gabby when he's just upset. He just gets started to the fire while she's talking. He's just there waiting, and then
Hmm. Hmm.
I think he holds up the Queen of Hearts and it covers her for a second on the frame. It's just excellent framing as well because it's the same Queen of Hearts that he held when he thought of her Magneto, and I guess it's the idea of him losing his queen, right? So I really have to commend again the depth of the love drama that this show portrays amidst all this happening, right? This is not just about mutual empowerment, but people also dealing with real life situations and their hearts and trying to connect all that. And like I said, for Magneto, it kind of felt like, I mean, that's actually not a bad deal. And I commend Rogue for, I guess, her dealing with her thoughts as best as she could, and even the final decision she made. I don't want to jump, but like I said, those are basically my thoughts in the entire thing. But let's hear yours.
You know, the moment where Rogue is telling Gambit the truth, my heart sank for Gambit because I love Gambit. And I've spoken before in previous podcasts that no matter how much of a rogue he is in terms of his roguish nature and charmer and all that stuff, and the playboy kind of facade he gives off, he loves Rogue.
Yeah,
He'll do anything for her.
but
You know, she's saying, "Oh, we can never touch and we can never embrace," and he's like, "That does. There's more." He even says, "You know, our love is more than skin deep." You know,
mm,
and she says, "You light up
but
everything you touch except me." Oh,
not
when she
me.
said that line, my heart, oh,
and
damn! I was just
okay,
like, damn, oh, and Gambit, Gambit is a better man than me. You know, he's a better man than me because after what he saw, after his experience, and it's with Magneto, I
yeah.
don't know that I wouldn't have been, you know what? Fuck you. Get out of my face. Go to that old man. I don't care. But he's just like, he's a gentleman. He holds her hand. He's just
Dude,
like, he will break your heart, but you know what? I'm going to be a friend. I'm not going to pressure
uh,
you.
you
Gives a
know,
kiss. Like, I was like, damn it, Gambit.
well done,
You're too
Gambit.
much of a
Proud of you.
gentleman. Ah,
Proud of you.
better
Proud of you,
man than
bro.
me. And then on top of that, after that, I don't know how he kept his composure. I mean, I understand why he left. When she comes in and they have that dance, that really sensual dance, floating and flying, and now the whole world knows that you've left me, just in my face. Thank you. All right. Well, you know, like I was like,
A
wow.
quick touch on that. Again, I like connecting the show, and it's essentially the same comment about Magneto talking about how Gambit can fly, and now he's
Yep.
seen him and Rogue flying
Yep.
while Gambit's on the ground. It was just like I feel like he remembered that too, and he's like literally he walks out. Yeah, like you said, maybe a little better than me too, because that definitely was like dagger, like deep in the
Oh,
heart,
I was
deep
like,
deep in the heart.
damn. This just happened. And of course, the whole scene of the dancing and the whole environment looks so beautiful. I love the design of the area because it's designed for people with powers. You have people like dancing on the roof, on the ceiling, on the chandeliers in
Mm-hmm,
different
mm-hmm.
angles because people can float and fly. So, and the music was so beautifully done, which made
Yeah,
what happens next even harder because again, I don't care who you are. You think at this point we've seen all the drama, this is where the episode's going to end, and then out of nowhere, and finally we can now get this off our chest. Baby Nathan, who by now everyone should know as a, as a as a Cable, arrives,
kid.
and you're like, why is he here? I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Boom, 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 explosions start happening everywhere. Fun fact, before all of this happens, I didn't notice this at first. I noticed it on my second viewing. But if you noticed it, in the sky as we see above Genosha, we see the Watcher.
Not gonna lie, I did not at first. Nope, I totally missed it. I had to rewatch. Again, my mind was just extra blown because I was like, is that like visual trick, or when you're so focused on something else, you don't notice
Right?
the bigger picture? So
And it's one of those where those of us who know the Watcher is, if the Watcher is watching, then something significant, good or bad, most of the time bad, is about to occur. And so that was the
yeah,
warning. And then out of nowhere, and again, this episode is called Remember It. And you know, we're gonna remember this episode because then that's where we get an attack from a Godzilla-sized Sentinel. Like what? All right, let's break down the key moments of this attack. First of all, they all get blown out of nowhere. I do like the fact that we get reminded of how powerful Rogue and Magneto are because they're at the forefront of one of the explosions, but they get up again and they're all good. One of my favorite moments is Magneto using the train as a whip, Magneto's fight. What did you think of Magneto's moment of triumph and subsequent death protecting the Morlocks? How did you feel about that moment?
Yeah, R.I.P. to mom. It was fantastic. That way, so it was just a sequence of seeing him cry, right? Seeing him have the flashbacks, right? Seeing just the everything, right? Just us reminding, like I just keep reminding us that he's even still tormented till now. Right? This is a broken man, even in his old age. So I feel like that the whip was almost like a release of some aggression, right? In the
Mhm.
most masterful way that he could. He was able to just like hit literally smacked that thing, and that was fantastic, fantastic, fantastic to see. And even in his end, right, the fact that he went down protecting that the mutant from the blast while he
Leech.
was shielding Rogue Leech. Thank you, sir. Protecting Leech while he was shielding Rogue, still showing us again why I call him mom because he's our hero villain, right? Like he's a villain because of the extremity of his vision, but his heart has always been in the right place. His heart is always for mutants, and if he says he's for you, he is for you. He's not. He doesn't twist those words, right? And I love that. I love him going down in that format. And now that I've said that, once again, I don't know. I'm still I'm always suspicious of him. I'm like, did it? I mean, they showed
Did he
Omega Threat,
grind?
eliminated, but like, I don't know, man. I need to see a head or like, DNA usually before I believe these things these days. Like, but again, just in terms
Well,
of character, just a fantastic episode to show him to us.
I love the moment where the fight starts and he sends out the teams to do everything they need to do. And he says, "We shall not live our days wondering if we could have saved more." I love that line. That's such a great line. And
That's
Inia, I
so
liked,
good.
if you didn't notice, the reason why, for those who didn't notice, the reason why suddenly out of nowhere the Sentinels say Omega threat detected. Why wasn't it detected before? Well, Leech's powers can leech mutant powers, but it can also do the opposite. They can enhance mutant powers. So I believe Leech was enhancing him in that moment, and then that's why he went into Omega level. But unfortunately, I loved in that moment. It hit hard when he's like in German saying, "Don't be afraid, my child." I was like, "Ooh." That's so because then we get the flashbacks of his time as a kid in the German internment camps and things like that, and I was just like, oh man, what a way to go for Magneto. Oh, so powerful.
But great
And then
storytelling.
we get our boy Gambit. Yeah, fantastic storytelling. Then we get our boy Gambit throughout all of this. There's a great moment where the Morlocks are like, the X-Men don't care about us, and then Gambit comes crashing in with a Sentinel head, and the X-Men music theme is playing in the background, and I was like, yeah, Gambit. And he has great moments of
Yeah,
protecting Rogue from trying to stop Magneto. He's on the bike. I half
yeah.
expected
The
him to do
bike,
the Akira slide. I
100%
wanted to
did.
do the
I was
Akira
waiting for
slide
it.
on the bike, and
100%.
unfortunately, it leads to Gambit's death when he says, "I'm Remy, remember it." What do you think of Gambit's amazing like X-Men prowess? You know, Gambit, what people forget is that his mutant ability is just to kinetically charge things. Everything else he does, that's him. Gambit is a badass.
Yeah.
Like, what did you think of
You
Gambit's
know,
moment and death?
Gambit. I think this is they've done right by the character. Is my first feeling from this, right? Especially, I believe, just showing the fact that like you said, Magneto and Rogue were probably the only two who were actually having any kind of effect fighting this Sentinel battle, right? At least that we see from the X-Men, right? So the effect of what he did was huge. He really took down a big beast. Yes, with his life, but it just again echoes of Professor X and some old quotes of him just reminding Gambit that he was more than a scoundrel, more than a street rat. Just always trying to push him to be the hero. I really feel like Professor X was in heaven, like wiping a tear, like yes, that's exactly what I wanted you to do, Gambit. Like it felt like a perfect like this is why these people are heroes all the way till the end, right? Like we appreciate it, and like you said, even minus his power, the showcase of his skill, the timing, hitting Rogue, just it shows how witty he is. He has his like sly exterior, but deep down, Gambit's an amazing character, fantastic member of any team, and just again visually just amazing. Even the watching the kinetic energy charge up all the way from him. It was perfect. I think you said it at the beginning. This episode has to go down as in the Hallmark Wall of Fame for just whether it's suicidal hero, great moments, or whatever it be. It hit all the right nerves for me, and I think, like I said, it did very right by Gambit. But gone too soon.
Oh, it's just they gave us this powerful moment of the character. Again, I think he's one of those characters like Scott, who people who don't really know the X-Men lore kind of have this vision of who they think the character is. And I think this show is showcasing, well, they are that, but there's also more to them. There's more levels to them. I think
Yeah.
whatever
Sorry, go
your
on.
view of Gambit was before this episode, coming out of it, your view of him has changed, and you understand why people like
Has to.
us love him, right? And I think
Yeah.
they did a great job showcasing that his as a person. And again, this episode's called "Remember It," and there's a lot of things to remember. Remembering what's happened to them up until that point, remembering what happened to all of them, remembering what could have been on the island of Genosha, was supposed to be this perfect paradise for mutants, and it's now destroyed. And part of it, I was reading this article with one of the show creators, and he spoke about part of this was kind of that transition, right? The original show was at this time, at least for people like us who grew up on it, it was a time of innocence, a time of nostalgia. But as we get older and the world
Yeah.
changes, sometimes again, like those of us who are old enough to remember things like events like 9/11, out of nowhere, your world can be changed upside down. Things can change in an instant, and that's what happens to the mutants. Even when you see
Yeah.
the X-Men at the mansion watching the events of what happened unfold, everyone's just in total shock, complete and total shock, just like us as the audience. And I think they did a fantastic job of that. Even again, I mentioned about how this episode gave us a lot of mutants in the background that we are familiar with. They killed them all. I was just like, oh shit!
Oh.
You just see
Yeah.
like all of them. You just see some of the Morlocks and things like that just dead. And this episode was brutal. We had blood. We had dead bodies with their eyes open. I'm just like, what kids are
Mhm.
watching this without trauma?
Hibernating.
I was
Same.
just
But good. Like, yes.
it was like, whoa.
Exactly.
This is insane. And how powerful that was. And what I like about this is that they're doing exactly what the comics have been doing. People forget or don't realize that the X-Men are a rotating roster. There's so many of them, you can't
Yeah.
have the same 5 or 6 every time. You have to switch up the rosters. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that the show seems
Yeah.
at least to be saying, because we all thought we're going to have Magneto for the whole season. He's gone. Now, like,
On
so
more.
who's the new leader? Who takes, things like that. I think they did a fantastic job in that regard. However, here's my question for you, Andrew, as a comic book nerd. Every time we see Cable, it has to do with time travel shenanigans. And he says, I'm not going to lose you again, or he says something like this time. So, do
Yep.
you think time travel things will alter what we saw, or do you think what we saw is cemented in stone? What are your thoughts?
Nah, if it's under a stone, I'm breaking the stone. There's no way. Absolutely no way. One, it has to be time travel. It has to be time travel. And it's not even like I'm a probability. Time travel, multiverse. This is also why we love the X Men, right? It's like, yeah, no way. But I still like that. No matter what, this has happened, which is kind of cool. Like this has happened, but we're gonna find a new, a new time or reality that we're with. But R.I.P. to all these people over here. Good day. Ah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it might be a bit of both, right? I think there might be
I
some
think,
time travel shenanigans to kind of alter things, but I think there's going to be
yeah,
some things. Just I don't like even what could we had two major deaths in terms of the characters we followed, but we also had some background deaths. I don't
yeah.
know that they would bring them both back if we get time travel
Well,
fixing things. And I hope they don't bring them both back. As much as I'd like them to
they have,
both be back, I think you
yeah,
don't want to lose the gravity of what happened in
it's
this
cool.
episode. You want that
Yeah,
to kind of stick, and that can be stay as powerful. So I hope, but I don't. At the same time, I'm conflicted. I want them to come back, but I hope they
because
don't come back at the
it's
same time. This episode, we don't know who did the attack, and I think that's an interesting place to be. And I think if my educated guess, because Cable's involved and Cable kind of felt the attack was coming, it's either an attack from the future or it's Apocalypse doing this attack,
yeah,
taking advantage and just trying to destroy things. But either way, we know that the ramifications of this will be huge. certain moments that stood out to me in certain quotes that I liked. There's one quote when Magneto is talking to Rogue, and he says, "As with Gambit, loving you makes grown men whole, so that even as you deny us, our heartache is not in vain." I was like, "Damn, what
Like,
is in the Kool
jeez.
Aid for Rogue? All
Yeah.
these people love Rogue like that."
Yeah. Listen, trust me, her powers. There's something else there. But let's not get into that. Oh, yeah, that was amazing. That was such a literally. I think I wrote. I'm not gonna. I literally wrote somewhere. I was like, master of magnetism, master of riz, because those are the best lyrics I've heard in quite a while. Like,
Right, right.
wow. Huh.
And he's so calm about it too. And there's another
Yeah.
moment, again, a brutal moment that you blink and you miss it. When Magneto is fighting the Sentinels, he gets struck into Xavier's statue, and the statue falls and crushes a whole bunch of people. I was just
Yeah.
like, oh,
Really?
damn.
Shoot.
Just again, the brutality of the battle wasn't lost on us. You know, the ramifications, the after effects of it was not lost on us. Uh, I can go on and on about this episode. I thought it was a fantastic episode, and the creators are saying it gets crazier. This is just the beginning of this is just the transition from the good times to the harsh times, and we're just transitioning into it. And so I have no where is it going to go? I have no idea, but I'm excited to go with them on this journey. This show just transitioned from, like I said, a nostalgic show to a show that I'm like really fully focused on. What do you nerdies think about this show? What do you think of this episode? Find us on social media at the Nerdy Bunch. Anything else to add, Andrew?
I guess yeah. Again, just loving the direction. Can't wait. I think it's also funny, and I keep reminding myself that this is like an extension of the '97 show, right? So like I almost keep watching it, expecting it to be like an
Mm-hmm.
origin story, where they're like, no, 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 we there's 3 seasons back there if you need the slow days, right? Like
You,
we're moving
you,
people, come on.
you go
So
back.
it's it's exciting to be on the train, and I can't wait to see more. And I love that more people, my wife included, are now like understanding more of this X-Men love and like looking for comics, looking for the old shows. So yeah, can't wait to keep
Mm-hmm.
reviewing these.
And I think another thing we haven't touched on before we close out in this series, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think one other way they've kind of raised the bar from the original series is that the music and the score is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely, like in the epic moments, that music just ramps up and it just gets you charged. I was just like,
Yep.
wow, this is so good. I was really hyped. As someone who appreciates scores in stuff, I thought it was really well done. Um, that's all. Thank you, Andrew.
You did it. Further.
My name's English Dave. This has been a Nerdy Bunch presentation of Something to Marvel About, where we spoke about X-Men 97, Episode 5, and now I'm going to go and cry into my pillow before I edit this because all the emotions have come back up. And as always, Andrew,
Keep it nerdy.
keep it nerdy, you nerds. Bye.